right. So we are going to just give ourselves 30 seconds here before we get started. Um, um, all right. Maybe we'll. Was going to have some background music, but I figured we won't bore you guys with the background music for a minute. Um, I'll give you 5 seconds of it so everybody can get a little beat going. I can't remember which one I use. This one, I guess. This is the one. All right. So, all right.
I like that.
Yeah, I like it too. We can just keep going for 45 minutes like this, but we won't. All right. So, everybody, just welcome to the Get Go Global live stream. My name is Link Brown. I'm based here in Switzerland. I work with Swiss SMEs, helping them drive growth of their business into the U.S. market mainly. And Bruce?
Hey, thanks, Link. Really proud of the work that you do. Really look up to that as well. I run a digital marketing agency that focuses only on cybersecurity and only helps cybersecurity agencies, data security, computer network security. We help them grow and achieve those contracts.
Oh, awesome. Very cool. So we're in the right place. All right. So today in our Get Global live stream, we are going to talk about cybersecurity marketing strategies. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, so I met Bruce a few months ago, and we started working on some projects together. And he's, I'm really a sales guy. And I would say I work across a lot of different industries in America, but really just, focused on the US. But I'm really coming at things from a sales perspective. And Bruce has these like really interesting insights on marketing that I don't know. And some of the terms I was like learning for the first time. So I said, oh, okay, this is cool. So we've been partnering together on some projects, but also I just thought he had really great insights. And the reason why I was thinking about cybersecurity in particular is because this upcoming season, I'm going to be a mentor at EPFL's Tech for Trust program, which focuses on digital trust and cybersecurity. And I thought I did a kind of an intro for them a few months ago on what to look for in the U.S. market. But now I thought, this is specifically cybersecurity is specifically something that each of them is going to be needing. And so I wanted to kind of, put something out there, not just for them, but also for other people in our network who are in the cybersecurity space. So it'll be about 30 minutes presentation today, and then we'll open up for some question and answers. You can put your questions inside of the comments on LinkedIn, and we'd love to see them. So I will just turn it over to Bruce, and Bruce, you can take it away.
Thanks, Link. Before we start, I need to know, have I convinced you that marketing is more important than sales yet, or do I still have some work to do there?
You have a lot of work to do. So, so I'm completely unconvinced, and but maybe that's my 24 years of bias.
We'll get there. We'll put in the work. Thanks so much, Link. One of the things that I see a lot, nearly daily, is that cybersecurity companies, especially those who do manage cybersecurity services, they depend almost entirely on referrals, right? Or the network, or the way the market is going. And so I thought it might be interesting to talk a little about the strategies that can help you break out of that and actually just sort of generate your own demand, as opposed to depending on the general demand of the market, right? And so we'll just have a conversation about that. And so we'll talk about where the market is at the moment, where it's heading, why it's heading there, some go-to-market strategies, some fundamentals about what's not working, and in other words, what you should not be doing, and what is actually working. All right.
Great.
When it comes to the sort of market overview, and a lot of this is, it looks like, word salad, but really what it is two things. It's two things. Number one is that the cybersecurity market is going to more than double in the next 6 to 7 years. So from 202 billion to 424 by 2030. And the second most important point, and I hate to bring it up, but unfortunately, it's in our faces every day. It's the role of AI, right? Because what AI has done now, it's empowered, your average HTML developer, to now possess prolific hacking skills. And in order to combat that, businesses now need an AI counterpart to mitigate those risks. And what does that mean? That means there's an increasing reliance on artificial intelligence, both from the bad actors as well as everyone trying to protect themselves. Right? And so two things are certain to happen: the growth of AI and the growth of, or the necessity of, the cybersecurity market to actually increase in its market capitalization. Now, what we want to talk about is, like, if you're in cybersecurity today, just putting yourself in the best position to grab some of that market share over the next few years. Some of the pitfalls you really need to avoid, and maybe some of the marketing basics that you can really help your business sort of explode, really, because everyone else is doing the opposite.
Yeah, interesting. So, by the way, just real quick on the AI front. So, are you saying that everyone needs to have AI in there as a part of their solution, or what are you? Yeah, what are you kind of saying?
That's a good question. The trajectory we're seeing right now is that because AI is empowering a lot more bad actors to actually do these low-level to mid-level hacks, businesses won't have a choice but to employ AI or solutions to mitigate those attacks and those threats.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's like good AI to combat bad AI.
Yeah. It's Ultron versus Vision, from the Age of Ultron, the Avengers.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, a resident nerd over here. Sorry.
Cool.
And so this kind of brings us to this positioning, really. What is our go-to market for cybersecurity and all of its related services, and specifically it's sort of in the B2B space, right? GTM, if you had to really break it down, it only consists of two areas, and that's inbound and outbound. Inbound meaning that there's an intent to do business with you. They're looking for your service, and they fill out a form, whatever that process is. But you don't know if they're the right person or the right company, if they have the budget. They don't need messaging at the time. But there's definitely an intent to transact commercially. I added intent over there because intent is something that is usually directed towards a specific seller. But in this case, because we have the ability to mine intent data, we can actually find everyone who's in the market. They're not necessarily in the market for your product or for your service, but you can take that intent and convert it into sale for your own business, right? And a lot of intent data platforms can provide this sort of platform and data for you, right? Have you had any experience with using any sort of intent data platforms?
No, I haven't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so let me be very, very, very honest about this, right? There's a lot of false signals, and one of the ways to sort of overcome these false signals. Let me explain what those false signals are.
Yeah.
It's like, for cybersecurity, a lot of times we'll actually get cybersecurity, people who are in cybersecurity would look like they have the intent to do business with cybersecurity. Right? And that's because they're obviously visiting cybersecurity related websites. So what we really want to do is say, when we're niche specific, and say, well, if a hospital manager is actually in the market for a cybersecurity service, we can actually mine that intent, and that's a bit more of an accurate intent signal, because that's not something they typically do, right? And so we're just taking that intent from wherever it is, mining it, and trying to use, which is our next GTM strategy, outbound. And so we can take outbound, which is basically all of our cold outreach attempts, whether it's email or phone or LinkedIn or whatever it is. And all we're doing is we're going in with a sort of an ABM approach, an account-based marketing approach. And so you need to find the right person at the right company, give them the right message. And because we don't know if it's the right time, when we combine that data with intent data, we all of a sudden we have all the pieces of the puzzle, and it looks like we're a godsend when we actually do this outreach.
That makes a lot of sense. It's actually, I've done a lot of outbound marketing before. I just believe in it and just generally, but I had never thought about it in that way, in terms of, if you can combine it with the right type of data to give them this, like almost to create a synergy between the need and the timing, that it's very powerful.
Yeah, exactly. One of the arguments, that us marketers usually have, we don't usually have this argument with sales, is that which of these actually comes first? Do you prioritize inbound or outbound or advertising? What is it that you do? And this is just my opinion, and I could be wrong, but one of the things that we found is that when you prioritize outbound, what it helps you do is helps you refine a really, really good sort of messaging strategy. Because remember, you're reaching out to a cold audience. So when you refine that messaging strategy, it's now easy for you to employ that same messaging to an advertising strategy. So you know that your ad spend isn't wasted on testing different messaging types, because if it works in a cold audience, it's definitely going to work on a warm audience, right? And so that's sort of the logic behind it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've actually always prioritized outbound as well. One, it's less expensive. Two, I like the way you put it. It gives you much better. Well, the way I would say it is, it's active, right? It's very active, proactive selling or marketing, whatever, in order to drive results, and it gives you much better feedback than an inbound, than waiting on a lead or a project to come in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So what is not working? Right, fear-based messaging. This is such a hard message to get across, and sometimes I have to use fear in order to get the message across, which is a little bit counterintuitive. But this is something we find that runs very strong sort of in cybersecurity circles. Is a message that is based on losing things, on expanding or expounding the threat, and sort of just really exemplifying how huge the loss will be if you don't do this thing. And thinking here is more, I guess, more psychology than marketing. And if you really think about it, when you're approached with something with a threat, right, and somebody is bringing you this fear-based message about this threat that's coming up, you actually associate the messenger with the threat and the fear that they face. And I have never in my life seen anyone run towards the threat. They're always trying to cower in fear, like I would. And it drives them really to inaction. And so when we use this fear-based messaging, and one of the strategies that a lot of outbound efforts employ is actually doing a preliminary report and telling their audience that you need to be protected in area X, Y, and Z, and they think they're doing them a favor. but they actually just feel like you invaded their privacy, right? Because you did it without their permission. And
Uh,
go for it.
no, I was going to say I can see that because even in the sales world, right, we talk about there's a technique called FUD that you should introduce fear, uncertainty, and doubt into a prospect's mind in order to convince them. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that it can work, but it's kind of like adding too much of any one ingredient, maybe too much salt or whatever, into or maybe pepper is the right is a better one because you want a little spice, but if you go too much of it, it's just it makes you run away from the food instead of running towards it, right? So yeah, definitely there's a balance. Like it can be secondary or tertiary in the level of messaging that you get, but it can't be the first thing.
Yeah, I love the analogy, especially close to supper time. This one of the things we see a lot as well is the fear-based messaging when sort of large-scale hacks happen. Like MGM Grand, and I think one of the hacks where they paid a $100 million ransom, and a lot of companies seem to take that as an opportunity to scare people into action, but it really doesn't work. It's never worked. Maybe with a very small percentage of personalities, but it's a messaging that it renders your audience totally, paralyzes them. So they can't do anything. They don't want to do anything. They want to run away from you. And so strongly advise, just stay away from that. You'll get to sort of a messaging structure that actually works for whatever GTM strategy you choose. And then sort of lastly, one of the things that, and I guess this is sort of industry, across all industries, but we see a lot of managed security services providers or MSSPs trying to rush this retainer agreement with their clients. And this is just a little insight from all the cybersecurity companies that we've worked with, is that typically in the US, we're looking at between 8,000 and 15,000 for a sort of a medium-sized company that requires those managed services. And what we found is that anyone who charges less than 8,000, even if they're doing the same work at the same level of expertise, they'd win less business because they're charging less. Right? Because in your audience's mind, competence has a price. Right? And so you actually win more business the more you charge, which is probably a principle across every industry. Have you found the same in the industries that you work with?
For sure, but I actually find it not just industry specific, but I think it's almost one of these fundamental things when it comes to selling, right? Is trying to rush people along at your pace instead of theirs. Even if you're trying to move the pace faster, you have to do it in a way that helps people feel like it's their decision and make it their decision and not your own, right? So I think when you combine these three things that don't work that you're talking about, you lead with fear, you look at things as opportunistic instead of a solution that's very specific for that client, and then when you rush things to try to work on your pace instead of the client's, you actually end up turning people away from you. And it doesn't work. And I think it's fundamental, but I think it's also specifically in cybersecurity where fear could be a driver, is a temptation to use that as that lead.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally resonate with that. What we see is that the typical sort of sales cycle for these retainer deals is about 3 to 6 months, right? And so the cycle would look like they do a free cybersecurity assessment. They'd find some vulnerabilities, some things they could patch, do a little bit of pen testing, and there should be this structured sort of value ladder that you enter into as you're building trust. This becomes a lot harder to do if you've used fear-based messaging, because remember now they're associating you with the threat, and so you need to rebuild that trust again. This obviously happens because there's so many stakeholders. You need to do this with all of them, and so don't rush your sales cycle. Allow the trust to build, and you'll have a client for years. Right?
Yeah,
so
that's great.
It brings us to what is working right now. Now, the first one I owe to Russell Brunson, and he's in his book. I think it's the .com Secrets. Yeah, .com Secrets. He speaks about the reluctant hero, right? And the reluctant hero is just it's a persona that you take on, someone who's competent, who's capable, but he might not. He knows that there's something good and powerful inside him, but he's just not 100% sure about that, right? And so there's this sort of like this thing inside that he knows is there, and that's sort of the messaging that you want to get across to your audience.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of people you've seen that do that, that do it well?
Yeah, absolutely. One company that I was really stoked to see do this well is a company called Duo, and the current messaging is around. The theme is kind of under what do we call this? The Marvels. I'm not sure if you're another. I'm gonna nerd out a little bit here. Right? The Marvels, which is a bunch of superhero females, and these females are inviting you to be superheroes with them, right? And so it's saying that we understand, we know there's the hero inside you as well, and so we want to empower you to protect yourself, as opposed to coming with a message of, you need us to protect you, or you're done for, right? And the difference in the way that message is received is really telling.
Yeah, actually, the weird thing, this has nothing to do with cybersecurity, but it actually kind of reminds me of say it's like just do it, or be like Mike, right? Like in be like this is Gatorade or something. I can't remember. Like, right? It's like, yeah, you're putting yourself in the position. You're putting the consumer in the position of the hero themselves, and saying that they can create something instead of run away from something else. So I like it. Okay.
Yeah. And it kind of brings us to our next point. You can be a lot more specific about how to do that, how to become that reluctant hero, when you're niche specific. Now, I literally have a conversation every single day, multiple conversations with cybersecurity founders who say that I can't be niche specific because I'm going to miss out an entire market. And part of that thinking might be true, and there's sort of this loss aversion mentality over there. But nobody's saying that you have to stick to one niche for the entire existence of your business. All we're saying is that try to become a super specialist in one area, so that when you do approach a prospective client, it puts you miles ahead of everyone else, right? And this is a bit of an extreme example, but I would never, ever let a plumber extract my teeth, right?
Sure.
And I probably shouldn't, right? And so when you are super specializing in a specific niche, and I'll give you the example of it's called a fictitious John Hopkins hospital. They've got a managed IT services provider who says that they can also supplement their services with cybersecurity services. John Hopkins is not really sure. They get a cybersecurity company who specializes in protecting patient data, and they've got a long list of hospitals that they've protected, and industry insights that you can only get from working specifically in that niche. Right? And even though there's a relationship with those managed IT services, right, it's harder to go with them because that's not their niche. That's not their specialty. And John Hopkins wants and needs to have the best possible service, the best possible protection, because the damage that can come out of that, they know, is massive. and
Mm-hmm.
they need a hero, right? And they know that someone who specializes in that area is going to be the best choice. Once you've built up a sufficient sort of portfolio, nobody's saying you can't go and focus on insurance or banking and build up the same portfolio where you can specialize in these different areas, but you win a lot more deals that way, and your messaging will be so much more refined. And it kind of brings me to my next point, because a lot of cybersecurity is around maintenance. Right? We need to keep what we have and make sure we don't lose our data to a bad actor who wants to hold us for ransom. But when you are niche specific, it gives you these really, really good insights into your target audience. And I'll give an example with one of my clients. Right, there's a cybersecurity company, and their client was an ERP implementation, implementations, and with companies like Sage 300 and SAP. Right? And their client wanted to do business with one of Africa's largest insurers. Right? Once they tried to submit a tender, the first thing they did was a threat report. The insurance company says there's this long list of things that you need to fix. Get a cybersecurity company to fix that. Then you come back to us to talk about it. Right? And something actually just clicked. And I'm like, that's a really good insight. Now the cybersecurity company can go to these ERP systems and say, well, if you want to do business with insurance companies, these are the boxes you need to check. And this is more of an opportunity to grow your business as opposed to just a message on maintenance and maintaining what you have. And so that's something where there's a measurable ROI. It's easier to sell. The message is so much easier to receive and to really digest from your prospect. And it's so much better than talking to someone about, you better do this and you better do it with me, otherwise you're going to get hacked, right? It's just so much more distasteful. Trying to beat someone into submission.
I like it. And what is this? What is a digital sales room? Because I was looking up. So what is that?
Yeah. So this kind of ties back to a sales cycle that we spoke about earlier, rushing the sales cycle. Now, I put that there because it's a big problem, and this is it's a solution to shorten that sales cycle. Now, all of our clients use digital sales rooms, yes, and so these sales cycles are a lot shorter. And every client that we get assigned on has never had a digital sales room, which tells me that probably something that, I know all the big boys use it. The smaller cybersecurity companies, I'm talking about employees 10 to about 100, they usually don't use this. But what this does is that, remember we spoke about that relationship that you started with, the initial threat report, we'll do a pen test, we'll do some reporting, then we get a little bit more exposure to some of the larger sort of supply chain type of vulnerabilities. And each of these steps means that you need a new decision maker, a new stakeholder to get up to speed. So you're sending an email to the IT manager with a report. The IT manager will send it to his director. Director will get HR involved. You have to do a new presentation to HR because they want to be sure their data is protected. Then finance gets involved because there's invoices and they want to understand what's happening. And CTO and CIO and CISO, and everybody needs to be on the same page. And you've now got 59 email trails, and you don't know what's at the top and what's at the bottom, and it's very, very confusing. What a digital sales room helps you do then is just organize that, to structure your sales process so your client or your prospect knows exactly what comes next. More importantly, you know what comes next, so you won't skip that step and rush them. And because everyone's always on the same page, it's a digital sales room. It's a little hub specifically for them. Everyone's always on the same page, and the deal just moves through so much faster. We're talking about 30 to 50%. So when your sales velocity doubles, right, it literally means you could double your sales with a very similar effort, but because you're closing deals faster, you can deploy resources to go get more sales, just because you've been a little bit more efficient in the way you've structured your sales development process.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Those last one there, and if anyone's looking for platforms like that, I won't recommend any, but you could use something as simple as Notion, right? It's just a way to get everyone on the same page. And everything from Uberflip to Deal Intent to Haybase, they all perform the same function, a little bit more advanced are some than the others. But the entire point is just to have that hub so that everyone can always stay on the same page, connected. No one's asking a question, asking where do I find this document or that one.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was just talking about that this morning in a sales management academy with a friend of mine. His name is Benedict. I was at his training this morning, and it's one of the things we were talking about was like when you building an offer and kind of keeping everyone in the loop during the entire, like all stakeholders in the loop throughout the entire offer. And I think it's actually the same thing when you're talking about this in this digital sales room part, right? It's really about how do you keep everyone speaking the same language with the same expectations in the same timing so that you make a sales process and just a workflow much simpler and easier for everyone as it goes along.
Yeah, that's exactly what it does. You'll be amazed how much time it saves just by having that sort of mindset.
Yeah.
And then the tool to help you do that.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. So by the way, I was going to ask you, how can people actually get in touch with you if they wanted to know? So voila. Bruce, your website is growthstrategy.gg.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, or you're on LinkedIn as well. So
yeah,
Bruce
you can
Martin.
find me on LinkedIn. Yeah. I'll be the much younger guy in the picture. So don't be shocked when you look for me and find someone who looks totally different.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So yeah, it was really great to talk to you. I think people can get a lot of value out of this. Look forward to doing some follow-ups and some commenting on LinkedIn, and maybe we can open up some avenues for people to ask more questions. But yeah, we really appreciate you being here. It's a great session, and yeah, we'll see you around.
Thanks so much, Link.
Actually, I'll see you on the current project.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, I think they'll know where to reach me. And if you don't, just find Link and you'll find me as well. So thanks so much, Link. It's fun.
All right, no problem. Okay, have a great one.
You too. Cheers.
All right, bye everyone. Don't leave.